Hello friends, welcome to yet another session on essay perspectives. The topic for today is inspiration for creativity springs from the effort to look for magical in mundane. As always friends, I have a personal request. Third edition of my book Ethics, Integrity and Aptitude has unfortunately been pirated. Pirated copies are of very low paper and print quality, so I urge all of you to buy original copies can be bought from the seller Arvind India on Flipkart and from the seller Affordable on Amazon. Friends, this essay has been conceptualized as being made of the following components. So first we would introduce the topic, then we would dwell upon the essence of the topic, then we would discuss about the process of creating something new, then we would discuss the relationship between creativity and magical in mundane, then we would discuss about the merits of magical in mundane, then we would discuss as to how to develop this quality, then we would get into the creative aspect of it, and then argue if creativity springs only from magical in mundane or is there any other way out. Then we would conclude. Friends, I think the best way to start this essay is by referring to Discovery of Gravity by Newton. Friends, actually many individuals had seen apple and other things falling onto the ground before Newton. It was only Newton, falling of apple onto the ground is a mundane activity, correct? None of us, most individuals did not care to understand why is it so. Then it was only Newton who saw magical in that mundane. So who tried to read between the lines, who tried to understand the hidden meaning behind the falling of objects onto the ground, and that's how he started his research and the law of gravity was discovered. Thus, the effort of Newton to look for something magical behind the mundane activity of falling of object onto the ground led to the creativity, led to creation of something new, that is law of gravity. Similar is the case with Sir C.V. Raman. The sky had appeared blue to everybody on the earth. It was only thus sky being blue is a mundane thing. Nobody cared to understand why it appeared blue. It was only Sir C.V. Raman who took the effort to look for magical behind this mundane, and thus scattering of light was discovered. So thus it is amply clear that effort to look for magical things in the mundane ecosystem would actually spur creativity. This essay seeks to explore the various facets of this process, friends. Friends, we have to deconstruct the meaning of the essay statement first. So thus, there are 4 keywords in this topic: inspiration, creativity, magical, mundane. Correct? So, friends, first let us take up the phrase inspiration. What is inspiration? Inspiration is basically trigger. It is basically stimulation. So, if an activity triggers you to a thought, if an activity or a person or an incident triggers you to an action, then that is what we call inspiration, right? That is the simplest meaning of inspiration that anybody can offer. Then comes creativity. So creativity is something, is the ability to create something new, and whatever new that is created must be valuable. So creating something invaluable, we cannot call it creativity. So creating something new, unique and valuable is what we call creativity. Then comes the third key term, which is magical. What is magical, friends? What is magic basically? See, basically magic is something which is extraordinary. It is not an ordinary thing. Magic is something which is not perceptible so easily. Magic is something which is beyond obvious, correct? So that's what we call magic. So A person gets into a big box and the box is closed, and more and many swords are put across the box, correct? So the general ordinary thing is that the person inside the box must get killed, must bleed, correct? But the magic is something that prevents that. Magic is something that leads to that is beyond obvious. That means the person who is inside that box does not bleed, does not get killed, he comes out unscathed, correct? So basically magical is something which is beyond obvious. So you cannot the established principles of human understanding are defied by magic. So thus magical is something that is beyond obvious. So then comes mundane. Mundane is basically obvious, routine. So mundane is not something that is very extraordinary, something that is something that conforms to the everyday observation. So that is mundane basically. So routine activity, daily course that we do, daily observations that we make, that is what we call mundane. So this is obvious things. So now let us bring the meanings of all these four key terms together. When you bring the meanings of all these four key terms together, then we would unearth the underlying essence of the topic. So this essay statement essentially means a person who takes efforts to read between lines in the ordinary things, a person who takes efforts to look beyond the obvious meaning of the routine activities that go around us, a person who takes efforts in understanding the not hitherto not understood underlying meanings of the things around us, would create new and valuable things. So basically, to put it in simple words, basically the ability and effort to read between lines in the obvious scenario triggers a person to create something new. So this is the essence of essay statement, correct? So hope it makes sense. So if you have the ability to see what is unseen by others, if you have the ability to hear what is unheard by others, if you have the ability to pursue what is not pursued by others, then that ability and that effort is the starting point for creating anything new. That new thing can be a new discovery, new invention, new art form, new innovation, whatever. So this is the essence of the topic. Friends, now it is amply clear that the essay statement talks about the ability to read between lines leading to creation of something new and valuable, correct? So now it is important for us to delve into the process of how these new things are created, okay? So then only we would be able to say whether that creation of new things is because of ability or effort to look for mundane, magical in mundane or not. The first and foremost thing of the first step in the stage in the process of creating something new is observation, friends. A person who has the ability to observe keenly would only be able to create something new. So let us take the example of this construction equipment JCB. You must have seen that JCB's hand. I'm calling it hand because it is a replica of hand if you observe so closely. Perhaps the person who designed this construction equipment long ago, how he could have done it? See, first he really wanted to create an equipment that would help human beings to shift large boulders or to demolish buildings, etc., etc., correct? So then how is that demolition normally done? how are the picking up of the things is normally done is the moot point or the problem statement with which the person who designed that statement must have started out. Okay, this is pure I mean hypothesis, you may think, I mean unverified hypothesis. I am just imagining if I were to be someone who was tasked with the mission to create such a construction equipment, how it would have happened. That's it. Okay, to make the concept very clear, it's an hypothetical example. So basically, so what were the two utilities that were expected out of it? So the one is that it should demolish buildings, second one is it should pick very large heavy items, correct? So thus, how is picking up things normally done? It is normally done through hand, correct? So thus a person initially would have to observe how these things are normally done in the mundane world, correct? So thus that is the first step in the process of creating something new, correct? That is observe. The second step is to dissect. What do you mean by dissect? A person who is observing the mundane environment, mundane scenario, should dissect that mundane scenario. That means should break that mundane scenario. In this example of invention of this construction equipment JCB, see how would that fellow would have done? See, you see the hand. Okay, the hand has three parts: arm, forearm, wrist, correct? So you should have arm, you should have forearm, you should have wrist. That is what makes up our hand, correct? So here in this scenario, the person would have, how the human being is using his hand to pick something. So then he would have also dissected these three things. So arm and forearm are connected by a joint. It's a mobile joint basically that would enable a person to move forearm in the direction he wants. Then again this forearm and wrist are also connected by a mobile joint, correct? So similarly that fellow, see, this is how the dissection happens. So the mundane activity is actually dissected into various components and subcomponents. Then the third step is mixing up the components differently or altering the components. See, basically, need not be mixing, it need not have to be mix up or alter. It can be replication also, correct? So it can be replication also. So in this scenario, how has he done? So then he has conceptualized or envisioned an equipment where that equipment also has three parts to it, correct? So those three parts are also connected through a system wherein the system that propels mobility, systems that enables the equipment to change the angles and directions, correct? And you see the wrist of that JCB equipment has a bucket. So finally, after conceptualizing these components, the same thing is replicated in the equipment, and since the principle remains the same, but the power changes, right? A human hand, whatever human hand lifts is limited, but whatever JCB is supposed to lift is huge. Whatever human hand can break through wrist is very brittle, soft, small structures, but whatever JCB is supposed to demolish or break are supposed to be hard concrete structures, correct? Then you have to, keeping the principle same, you have to give more power to it, correct? So thus the components that are discovered in the process of dissection are either altered or mixed up in a different fashion or replicated in an altogether new environment. So this would help a person create something altogether new. Okay, so this is the process of creating something new. Before we move to the next slide, I just want to briefly give you one or two more examples on this third third step, that is mixing up of components differently or altering the components. See friends, see this creativity is not an unidimensional thing actually. So whatever example that I gave you is a case of replicating the components in the mundane world to create something magical in the real world, correct? So similarly, take the example of construction of dam. Okay, so here a man has seen the flow of water. Then he has understood that, he has dissected that the water just flows from upper riparian areas to lower riparian areas. Correct. So it is just the movement from higher areas to lower areas. Then the man thinks, then he dissects, that is because of gravity. But if I don't hold that water, I cannot use it. So then he tries to alter the components. How he tries to alter the components? By building a dam. So by building a dam, a person is able to store the water, divert the water for generation of electricity or for channelizing the same for agriculture purpose through digging up of canals. Correct? So this is mixing, this is altering the components. So you understand the mundane world, then you dissect it, then the components in that mundane world you try to replace it. So in the mundane world, the water just flows. But if you see the magical thing, you add the magical element of putting up a structure to stop the flow of the water and to store the water. Correct? Then again coming up to mixing up of the components differently. Friends, take the example of a two-wheeler. So these two-wheeler bikes are meant to be driven. Correct? But that's a mundane process. But a person who wants to do something, who takes efforts to help out physically challenged persons, actually would put two more wheels this side or that side. So he is actually mixing the components differently. He knows that, see, okay, let me put it this way. He knows that a person who is physically challenged would not be able to ride a two-wheeler because it is difficult for him difficult for him to balance. Then we have to come up with a vehicle where there is no need for balancing. When is there no need for balancing? When the vehicle is of 3 wheels or 4 wheels. But a person who is physically challenged may not be able to afford, so many people may not be able to afford 3-wheelers or 4-wheelers. So then those features of 3-wheelers or 4-wheelers had to be brought to 2-wheelers. So then the only idea is you have to eliminate the need for balancing. How do you do that? So you conceptualize an auto or you conceptualize a car and you try to mix up those components here. You mix up the components differently. That means those tricycle component of the auto is put it into the bicycle concept of 2-wheelers. Correct? So then you have the custom made 2-wheelers for physically challenged people where they can ride without any need for balancing. So thus this is the process of creating something new is beautiful. You have to first observe, dissect, then understand the components of the mundane world, try to either mix up the components differently, replace one component with the other, or replicate the components in some other world. Then only you would be able to create something new and valuable and unique. Friends, after discussing at length as to the process of creativity, process of creating something new, now it is important for us to explicitly establish the link between creativity and how the effort to look for magical in the mundane, how the effort to read between the lines leads to new inventions or discoveries. The first and foremost thing is new possibilities. See friends, a mundane world is attuned to operate in a certain way. So the world would be operating only in that way. Correct? So thus the mundane has so much potential for new possibilities underlying it. Okay? Then a person who goes a little deeper and tries to read between the lines, understands that the mundane items, mundane interactions can be used for creating something new. Correct? So thus it is only this ability or this conscious effort, conscious intention to look for some possibilities which are not explored yet would only lead to exploring those possibilities. The best example is painting in schools. Friends, earlier what used to happen, see, people used to just paint the classrooms or schools with a plain color. Correct? That actually did not serve any purpose. So that was a mundane thing. Then somebody suddenly thought it is important to paint it, to use that huge canvas of walls to deliver a pedagogical input. So then people started coming up with various creative ideas. The formulae are painted on the wall, various shapes are painted on the wall, capital cities are painted on the wall. Then thus this ability or this effort by someone to look for something magical in this mundane painting led to pedagogical painting in the wall. I think recently I was reading some article wherein some I think Soumya Sharma of 2018 batch, I guess. So she was at P, I think in Madhya Pradesh. So she has ensured that all the walls are painted with some financial literacy in the schools. So finally the schools, the walls are mundane, painting with plain color is mundane, but somebody thought, let me do it creatively, let me try to generate a new possibility. So that's how this ability has only led to that possibility. That possibility has led to this new invention. Next, obvious is already explored. Friends, see, whatever is mundane is already explored, right? Then if you see mundane in mundane, then you are not creating anything new because that is already created. See, perhaps whatever is magical in mundane today may not be magical in mundane tomorrow. Once it is discovered, then this magical gets shifted to mundane bucket. So whatever you are thinking to be mundane, magical today, if everybody replicates the same, if that becomes the order, if that becomes the rule, then that becomes mundane. You have to see something beyond that. Correct? So thus, since it is already explored, obvious is already explored, then if you see mundane in mundane, there would be no creativity. If you should see only magical in mundane, then only there is creativity. Then new applications of existing utilities. See, initially, a particular item is being used for a particular purpose. That is how the thing is. But if a person who has this sense of seeing magical in the mundane would actually try to use the same thing for a different purpose, for an altogether different purpose. So the best example is water bottles. So all this PET water bottles, whatever we use, or the soft drinks bottles, etc. Earlier they were used to only store the water. Then somebody suddenly thought, why? I can anyway cut the bottom of the water bottle, then fill that up with some sand, then I can start growing plants in it. It added an aesthetic value to it. Correct. So everything you can start giving new applications to the existing utilities. Correct. So that also happens through the ability to see magical in the mundane. Then last way in which these two things get connected is synthesis of multiple mundanes. Let me illustrate, friends. Hearing the messages using voiceovers through FMs, advertisements, through televisions is a mundane thing which we have been seeing from long time. Similarly, caller tones on the mobile phones is also a mundane thing. Correct? We have been hearing caller tones from long time. Now you are bringing these two mundanes together. Whatever messages which the government is intending to put across is aired through caller tones. That's how COVID appropriate behavior was popularized in country. Whoever you want to call, there would be only one caller tone. So you have to maintain this social distancing, you have to do this, you have to wash your hand, you have to wear your mask, etc., etc. How that message was spread across the country? It was only through caller tones. So thus, these two mundane things were brought together and a magical was created. Correct? So thus this ability, this ability to bring two mundanes together is what would also lead to a magical output. Then what are the advantages of seeing magical in mundane? How does it help? So the first and foremost thing is it helps build eco-friendly ways of living, eco-friendly interactions, etc., etc. As I've already given you the example of water bottles being cut and used for growing plants, is serving so much eco-friendly purpose. First, it is reducing the waste. It is leading to recycling of the waste. At the same time, small plants at the small, even the magnitude may be small, they are releasing a little bit of oxygen. So it is bringing greenery, etc., etc. And next thing is this psychological kick. What do you mean by psychological kick? A person who discovers something gets that psychological kick. That is very much important for a person. It gives a person a purpose to do something. Correct? So take the example of Archimedes. So what was it? The Archimedes was really worried, was thinking as to how to find out whether that crown was made of gold or not without melting it. Then suddenly he goes to bathroom, he gets into the tub and the water falls out and he suddenly realizes that the law of buoyancy, and he realizes that law of buoyancy can be used to find out whether the crown was made of gold or not. Correct? Then in that scenario, what was that thing that made Archimedes not to get clawed but to run in the streets of Athens shouting Eureka, Eureka, Eureka? That was that psychological kick. It is, if not for that psychological kick, perhaps Archimedes would have completed his bath. He would have then worn proper clothes and then he would have walked normally to reach the king. So thus this magic ability to seeing magical in the mundane gives that required psychological kick. And next, oft forgotten thing is that this ability to see magical in the mundane is the root cause for all the jokes that we see. Most of our jokes are that way only. So thus it actually builds a person's sense of humor. This sense of humor actually builds good relationships. A person who has the ability to use the sense of humor responsibly is the person who is liked, loved, respected by everyone. So he can build good networks. Then synthesis of multiple mundanes I have already discussed, friends. So then the last thing is how to develop this quality of seeing magical in the mundane. The first and foremost thing is keen observation, friends. Whenever you observe something keenly, see, so many interactions come in our way, so many incidences come in our way, so many items come in our way, but only if you take time to observe keenly that you would come up with something magical in the mundane. So thus this ability to focus and give some time is what it leads to, correct? So first and foremost thing is keen observation. If you don't observe things keenly, you would miss mundane. If forget magical, you would miss mundane also. Okay, so you have to be very, very keen. So that ability to observe keenly is what leads to creativity. Then questioning the obvious. This is extremely important, friends. You should question the obvious. What do I mean by that? Whatever is the mundane, you should question that. Why is it the way it is? Can we not alter it, tweak it to make it better, to make it more valuable? That is very much essential. So if a person develops these two qualities of keen observation and questioning the obvious, then that actually leads to the ability that leads to seeing magical in the mundane, and which in turn leads to creativity. Oh, this is repetition, friends, so let's not waste time. Now all this while we have analyzed or we have argued that the effort to look for magical in mundane triggers creativity, correct? Now it is time for us to pause for a bit and counter question ourselves. Does creativity springs only from magical in mundane? Does it mean that only if you have that ability to see magical amidst mundane, does it only lead to creativity? The answer is no, friends. Absolutely no. There are so many innovations and creative things that have sprung up by an altogether different phenomena, that is deep thinking. A person who does detail, who deeply thinks about something would also be able to create something new. To elaborate, a person who takes efforts to just see magical in the daily course routine activities would also create something new. But similarly, a person who sits and thinks on his own, does deep thinking, would also come up with something, would also come up with creative things. So beyond the effort to see magical in the mundane, you have this you have this factor of deep thinking that leading to creativity. The best example is abstract painting. Friends, most of us, the painters, whoever paint the canvas, no, most of them, the painting is so abstract that the thoughts that are expressed, the ideas that are expressed through those paintings arises or springs from only their deep thinking, deep meditation, correct? In those scenarios, it is not that you see some bus and then you try to give some other meaning to the bus and then you paint. No, all these abstract ideas of happiness, abstract ideas of jealousy, abstract ideas of many things. So such ideas, if a painter is able to put it on the canvas, that means it is coming from his deep thinking and deep ideation about that abstract thing. So it is not from his ability to see magical from in the mundane, correct? So thus creativity happens either from one's ability to see magical in the mundane, or from his ability to deeply think, deeply ideate, deeply contemplate about something. Correct, friends? So now it is time for us to conclude. after this elaborate discussion, we can very well conclude that every individual should develop a conscious habit of trying to read between the lines. That would help a person to come up or to create things that are unique, new and valuable. Correct? Thus friends, all of us have to keep our eyes, ears open to the happenings around us, and we should keep our heart and mind open to see the magical in the mundane happenings around us. Also, once in a while, we should think deeply about the issues that haunt us often, and then come up with creative new ideas. So it is these two abilities that make our life more meaningful, more easier, more effective. Thank you friends. Thanks for patient hearing.